From the bodice block to the skirt block. Time to start focusing on how to make my skirts. The measurements is simple. You use your waist and hips, hip depth, and how long you want your skirt. But as I have discovered, it's not just that simple. Time to get started. I'm starting with my typical measurements, and this one will be without any seam allowance. And that is to ensure that I got a solid straight line to work from. Since this paper I'm working with sometimes can have a little bit of fold and tear in it at the edges. To ensure that I got a straight line, I actually draw my straight line. Then it's up to the seams of the length I require my skirt to be. And I went with hips plus 5 centimeters or 6 centimeters to ensure that I've got at least ease around the hips. And yes, I know most of the stuff is out of screen that I'm marking my stuff, but I'm learning how to do the videos properly, unfortunately. I do have an idea of how I can do it, to have a top-down view, even though I don't have the facility to do a proper top-down view. First measurement would be hip depth that I'm drawing in. And looks like I have chatted over how low I need to make, or the actual arc in my back, to ensure that I got place for it. My idea behind using my bodice blocks are to make sure that when I do end up creating a dress without either a dress or my bodice block, a decent top using my bodice block, and that I need to use part of my skirt, that the two dots line up, because I'm planning on eliminating the waist seam wherever and whenever I can, because it's not a measurement I like, and that comes from being short-waisted. I don't want people to know that I'm actually short-waisted. I want to hide that fact in my clothing. Creating the dots, I thought I need to do it the width of the dots. And again, I have somehow forgotten that I do have seam allowance on my bodice block, and I'm drafting this without seam allowance at the moment. Yes, and sometimes I can get confused of what numbers I'm working with and where it's supposed to be. Hopefully this round, or this dot, I have remembered that I'm supposed to have a waist dot seam allowance. Or was it one that I forgot again? quickly cutting it out because I need to add seam allowance, and I was not thinking here because I'm so used to drafting skirts and the sleeves, sometimes the bodice, from a book with instructions of telling me how to draft it. Where drafting it means I'm drafting it without any seam allowance. So they need to add seam allowance again. And that is what will be remaining for the rest of this first block that I'm drawing, making sure the side seams match up because that is something that's highly important. If you don't want to have some ease or gatherings or any unwanted stitching in your stuff. Yeah, I'm just checking how sharp the seams are. I'm going to go back and cut out my dots because why not? I'm going off here from the memory of with my bust dart that the front dots were way too wide and I needed a lot smaller dots, which took me 4-5 mock-ups to get to that one. Okay, time to add my seams. Like I said, I wasn't thinking. I'm still questioning what went wrong with why didn't I draft it with seam allowance since it's a simple pattern. And yes, those top and bottom added seam allowance is going to become a slight problem later on. Center back done. Now for the hem. Yes, I also add 1.5 centimeters for my hem. If I require something that need a actual decent seam allowance, I will add a decent seam allowance. Now for the waist. And again, you'll see me cutting away the extra paper for the dots. And yes, tapping your back side is quite important. I have lost pieces of paper and tear it my pattern because I did not stick the backside down. And it's also, if you don't do it and it's just the front sticky tape that's holding your paper together and you end up tearing it, you can actually tear your pattern. Not just something that you can easily fix with sticky tape, but you can tear to the point where you have to redraft the entire thing or add paper to draft a part of it. And where at the front looks like it. And because I've cut a limited amount of paper off my roll of paper, I am trying to use as much of that little bit as possible without any problems. That is why there's still my side seam from my back not done yet. Now for the front side seam, and here's where you can see I have to piece paper together for that curve. And again, the back needs to be stick down too. Now for the final side seam that I left because I was worried about the amount of paper. Once the seam is done, I can make my mock-up, and we're gonna discover there's a few problems. item fitting time. Front looked somewhat okay, except how low the darts need to come. And the back, I don't understand what's going on. Yeah, I thought maybe I had sewn the back to the front and the front to the back, or I put it on backwards, and it seems like I am struggling a lot more. And there's problems, which means I need to fix. Starting with a tracing. Which could be difficult if your paper does not know how to stay flat. We have a sliding door in the dining room, which leads to the outside, which everybody uses. Between the actual back door and this side door, everybody uses the door in the dining room. And the living room is next to the dining room, which means the air can travel. And that will always cause my paper to flop over, unless it's huntress. Again, drafting important stuff off camera. You'll find it's an annoyance if you are not aware of what is in frame, what's out frame. Since I'm using my phone to record everything, it's difficult for me to know unless I use my computer or laptop as a second screen. Perhaps my tablet will do the trick since it is computer based or Windows and not an Android or mobile based. And yes, I have cut away the seam allowance for proper and accurate calculations, just like I did with the bodice, because I have made sure there's plenty of space around the skirt patterns. It is time to add my sleeves or seam allowance. promise, as soon as I start doing all my filming again, I need a top-down view. I will make sure I get the top-down view properly and not from this side, because I keep saying I'm enjoying drafting off screen. It's just because I'm not fully aware of where is on screen. And yes, my alarm switch goes off on my phone, and this watch of mine do communicate, and I do enjoy the fact that it communicates so well. So when my alarm goes off, I can use my watch to turn off my alarms on my phone. With the darts now sorted and the pattern is made, once again I do most of my sewing for the mock-ups off screen because I don't need the videos to last 4 hours. Oh, I've managed to discover I work off screen and fixed it. Use a simple folding technique to make sure the edge of the dart work is still working in. Let's see what's wrong with the mock-up. Still major folding in the fabric at the back. Trying to reposition the dots where I want it to be and figure out now. Time to do an alternative. In a way, this will be draping off the fabric or draping on the body with the fabric. Which means I need to actually go and draw the amount of fabric I require. I'm using the fold to my advantage at the moment, because if I need to have one piece of fabric sewn together, that means I'm not going to struggle with 4 or 5 seams to sew together. I just place a pin in my fabric because the fabric does stand on its one side, and that sometimes can be a mess. If you're trying to work with something that is flat or needs to be straight and flat, when it starts to fall off. And here I am done with all the measurements, and I'll be cutting it. Hopefully it's not too bad. Because my plan is to drape fully off my body, I need to make sure all the seam allowance are marked and out of my way, which means 1.5 centimeters right around sewing. You'll also see in this video, half of it's with a jacket, half of it with it is without a jacket. Because it's now the transitioning from summer to winter. The only reason why I will never say we're in autumn or spring is because where I live, it's boiling hot. Then by the time it starts to get reasonably survivable, you need to start thinking about getting all your winter stuff out. If you can go a week or a week and a half without switching on a fan or wanting to jump in the pool, you need to start thinking about where you hidden all your winter stuff. Because it's not even a full month after that, then you'll start to wear your winter items. Oh, and I stopped quickly to grab a cup of tea. Important to hydrate, and like I said, we're in the. It's not too hard where you want to go without something warm to drink, but it's time to start thinking about getting used to drinking something warm. And based on the time I've seen on my watch, it was early morning, which means I'm still in the drinking tea quickly in the mornings. Oh, almost 9. Yes, my watch will betray me quite a bit, telling you what time it is. And if you're lucky enough, it will tell you how many steps I have done, what date it is when this clip is filmed, and what my heart rate is. Okay, now that I'm ready to do the prepping, these shorts will be also a video as soon as I can get past all my mock-ups and actually creating my trousers item and figure out how to work with stretchy fabric. Yes, it's my biggest problem I have at the moment, is how to work with stretch fabric. grabbing one of my several measuring tapes so I can make sure my side seams stick together or are actual correct measurement that I can work with. Front almost done. Now for the second side. And once that pinning is done, it's practically draped, or so you would think and want to believe. This is what happens if you are working on your own and you have nobody to help you with draping. It's trial and error and hoping you can get it correct. This is probably something that most of the other seamstresses on the internet don't show you. It's the struggle to do it all on your own. The guesswork, the taking stuff on and off. Okay, the only reason why I took out some of the pins is because, I need to get out of this skirt. Once the skirt is draped, it's onto the paper to draft to get a paper version of the skirt. And here I'm working with seam allowance, but yet not seam allowance. I made sure I drafted where the pieces have to meet with the correct seam allowances marked out already. I'm actually measuring all the seams that I made, or the dots. Let's say I want to figure out how wide my front dots are. I will measure both dots, add it together and divide it by 2 in hopes to get the ideal width of the seam allowance or dot. I'm just using a previous markup to double check how long the dots need to be, because that's something I did not measure beforehand or paint while I had it on. With the pattern made, it's to fully What is up with this phone? Auto-focusing on what? If it's not the autofocus, it's me going off screen. But yet, if you listen to all the YouTube advice out there, they will tell you to actually start with this not ideal footage and work with this not ideal setups and improve over time. Okay, fitting time. Are you now seeing why I'm always struggling to get clothes fitting me? Because I'm always needing to deal with where the dots need to end and start and how wide they need to be. And there's the evidence that I am watching somebody else, probably one of my bench of the closet historian. And I'm doing a quick fix with the skirt of just tracing where the dots are supposed to be and then sewing that quickly to see if that's the problem. And I think I accidentally used the wrong side or marked the wrong side. And the pins I'm using in my room are actually pins that I'm not supposed to use for my sewing. That is my bobbin lace pins. And I accidentally put one of my bobbin lace pins in my sewing pins. Let's see if I can figure out or remember what was wrong, other than the length of the dots, which seems to be the only problem I keep running into. But I don't like how low those dots are. That is why I keep bringing them up and then keep lowering them. It's because I'm not a fan of how low those dots are. I get it. Where the fat cells in my body chose to go sit and stay makes my body shape quite an odd one, but I never before had to draft the dots that low. Guys, seam allowances cut away. Wait, am I actually trying to sort out the correct shape for the waistline now? Oh yeah, now I remember. The only reason why I have to redraft that curve is because I have started on the side seams. Or had my side seams on the ends, where the side seams are supposed to be in the middle, and the center front or center back as the starting seam up till the dot. And I made it a side seam, so I need to redraw it to fix it. I'm trying my best to get as smooth as this curve as I can. And there's Huntress asking for a kiss. Yes, from time to time, Huntress does come bother me. And yes, she does demand kisses from time to time. It's just because she knows I'll always kiss her. This cat is my life. I had it since she was 2.5 weeks old. You cannot tell me a kitten of 2.5 weeks old that requires a lot more care than a kitten at 6 or 8 weeks old. You do not want that kitten as your child. And she tends to bother me quite a bit, but she also has learned when mommy got to work, she's not allowed to interrupt. And here you'll see I am working somewhat around her as best as I can because she wants to see what I'm doing and want to spend time with me. I'm not going to deny her that. Oh, I had a slight problem from the previous clip to this one. As you can see, the paper is a lot brighter. One, I have run out of the other paper, which is my preferred paper because it's slightly thinner than this one. And you'll see I am drafting it all over again as best as I can. This was either a Monday or a Tuesday that I drafted this. The previous one was the previous week, either Thursday or Friday, and during the weekend it was a long weekend. I could not draft it. As you can see, damage. The dot was yellow and I'm using a green marker. Okay, now I can explain to you what happened. This was a particular weekend was the end of the month, which means in my household, those that drink alcohol got themselves a bit of alcohol. And because it's pay weekend, there was a few things that had to be done around the house as well. Compare I'm helping around the house, fixing stuff with family members that wants to drink alcohol. And if you cannot get they might have accidentally spilled something on my papers that are liquid, then we might have a slight problem with your understanding of how things can go wrong. Are we going back and forth between, this was the Tuesday or the Wednesday, because the first day back on working, I went and I created a mock-up that I'm not going to show because I have learned something interesting. The actual way you're supposed to calculate the dots on your bodice. Full bust minus waist gives you a certain number. For me, that was 12, because that is for the full circumference around the bust and full circumference around the waist, plus divided by 2, because I work with half of the body, which is 6. Then it's divided 2/3 for the front to 1/3 for the back. And there's Huntress wanting to aid and help again, but she doesn't. Back to the mathematical calculations. I actually tested this out and it looked quite well. The skirt portion of this fitted me perfectly, or quite closely, well enough for me to redraft it for you guys. And it also allowed me to have my dots the length I would want it. And yet again, I tend to forget when I add dots or making a sewing line or the basic pattern without seam allowance, and when I draw it with seam allowance, to remember the seam allowance. So I'm just quickly redrafting that, making sure my seam allowance are added. And here you can see me referencing those mathematical calculations as much as I can. For those that don't know, this little ruler of mine is actually 1.5 centimeters wide. That is why I'm constantly using it as my seam allowance width, because it is that correct width of the pattern. And because this paper is slightly thicker and more irritating to work with, you'll see me doing something that I normally don't want to do, and that is cutting out my pattern or slashing it up to the dot, folding my dot. And I do have to say, although I'm not a fan of how I got to the dot, but I can tell you I am a fan, what I'm a big fan of, is being able to draft a smooth curve. Once I have cut out the dot and it's out folding, I'm tapping back what I've slashed because it's not supposed to be slashed there. Now on to the back. And repeating that slashing and folding for the back as well. And all my dots goes to the back. I made sure both fit well. Once this is taped together, I can make my mock-up. And the biggest problem you'll see is actually my stomach, which is making a bit of an error here, which is why I am struggling so much due to how my fat cells chose to go sit down or sit in my body, which is my biggest irritation. Okay, let's see, what am I trying to fix here? I'm smoothing the back a bit, the side seam, to try and avoid the odd wrinkling at the side. It is the front that requires the most alterations, because I know from this point on I barely touch the back, and it's always fine tweaking for the back. Smoothing that side once again, just making sure the hemline is smooth once I'm wearing the skirt. Which for some might seem silly, but it's not. Okay, it's the front. Like I was saying, it's where my fat cells actually chooses to sit. I actually kind of look pregnant. And yes, my family has joked about it. So it's actually an alteration I need to make, which I've never run into. So I'm just marking where the seams are supposed to be and how far in I need to make that seam. I'm choosing it to curve it because of the simple fact that curving might be better. And don't forget the seam allowance for that one too. It was around about this evening, or did we hit? No, it was the week off for the children. No, it's not school holidays when I'm folding this particular part. For some odd reason, they had a week and a half or 2 weeks off for school holidays, and then I got 1 week during the second term. And that might now be messing with my brain, because it was like also holidays. as you can see, the stomach part looks well and looks nice, but this isn't an ideal thing. Okay, here I'm trying to figure out where the problem lies with the skirt, because above the stomach is fine, below the stomach is not, and I'm just trying to get that sorted. It looks better, but it's quite tight, and as you can see, I need to smooth it more, and that's what I'm gonna quickly do here. Smoothing it so it looks nice. I've gone in, not the full width of where that seam is. It was a similar 1.5 centimeters, and I'm gonna smooth it a lot more, as you can see. And this is also part of the, if you don't tape down the back, it will give you problems. Because I've cut away a bit of space that I require for my leg movement. Now that I'm a fan of this type of skirt, I'm adding that back in, and that causes some slight problems, which I'll also fix. Tapping the stuff together as needed, because it's highly important. And here you see me smoothing again the back, because that's how important it is to have it smooth. And tapping it all down. That is highly important. No flapping stuff that can catch on things and tear your pattern. Also, it's ideal to tape down the corners, areas where your side seam and your waist meet. Okay, here you can see it looks okay, but something doesn't fully look right. This is not a pressed, or the seams are not pressed. This is how much pressing your skirt and an unpressed skirt look like. So I'll be coming back with the skirt pressed, and then you can see how well it looks. like I said, I have discovered the measurements I was supposed to do for the calculations for my bodice, which means I know what I said in my bodice video, that I'm not a fan of throwing stuff away, but unfortunately this is a waste because it was lack of knowledge, which I'll admit, so I need to redo the bodice and get that sorted. And yes, it will also be a bit of a struggle to get that again correctly. So for next week, we will be working on the bodice to get that now fully sorted out and ready for the sleeves, because I cannot work on my sleeves if I still have a faulty bodice until next week.